It's coming to that time of year where something new seems to come out almost every day. Well, this is the new product from MSI. This is the GH50 wireless headset. Let's check it out in more detail and see if it's any good. Hi guys, welcome to Kit Guru. I'm Matt and this is my full review of the MSI GH50 wireless headset. This thing retails for around $90. It features 50mm neodymium drivers. It's got multiple connectivity options via 2.4 GHz wireless or wired. It's got a detachable omnidirectional microphone. You can see it's attached on the table in front of me. And it's compatible with PC, Mac, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation and Xbox, but you can only use it in wired on Xbox. It's certainly got some decent specs and decent features on paper, but how does that work in reality? I've checked this thing out in detail and I'll tell you all about it. Let's dive in and have a look how good this headset is. Kicking things off with the design then, and I've got to say straight off the bat, it's got a quite stereotypical gaming headset look to it. It's finished in grey and black, and it does look quite sleek in my opinion. Grey and black seems to be a colour scheme that we're seeing quite often in products recently. The top of the headband has some quite small, quite subtle MSI branding in black, so it blends into the grey finish quite well. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd rather that there wasn't any branding there at all, but the way it's been done is quite subtle, so I don't mind it all that much. And that grey plastic continues down on each side to the yokes, which do rotate, but only very, very slightly. There's not much movement in them at all. And in contrast to the yokes, the headband, and the outer rim of the ear cups, the inner section of each ear cup is finished in a black plastic that's slightly more textured than the smooth plastic found everywhere else. And again, there's some very small, subtle MSI Dragon logo branding slapped straight in the center of each ear cup. The foam ear cushions are quite comfortable. They're finished in what appears to me to be a PVC leather. It isn't listed anywhere in the specs, but it looks like it is to me. And then, as I mentioned, they're foam on the inside, and they're both fully detachable. And moving back up to the top then, and the headband cushion is made up of that same fake leather and foam combo, but this time it isn't detachable. The left ear cup houses all of the controls, where you'll find the connection port for the detachable microphone. You find a USB-C port for charging the headset up. Then you've got power and mute buttons, power for the headset and then a mute toggle for the microphone. And then finally, you've got a volume dial for turning the thing up and down. And then the only thing you'll find over on the opposite ear cup is a 3.5mm audio connection for when you want to use the headset in a wired mode. Now, some of you may have noticed so far there isn't a drop of RGB anywhere on the GH50 wireless, which I think is a bit of a smart move from MSI. So it'll save and help prolong the battery life, which we'll discuss more later in the video. And I don't think there's much point to having RGB on headsets anyway. So I like the fact that there's no RGB on this one. Included in the box, you get the headset, of course, a 3.5mm to 3.5mm audio cable for using it in wired, a USB-C to USB-A charging cable, the USB-A connection dongle wireless receiver for using it in wireless mode, and then a USB-A to C converter. And then you also get this pretty cool carrying pouch, which if you want to take them out and about with you, you can stick them in the pouch, or if you want to chuck them in a bag, you've got a pouch to put them in so they don't get scratched and stuff like that. That's a nice little touch from MSI. Now, you may see a pattern emerging in the video up to this point. Plastic. This thing is made almost entirely out of plastic. The only metal I can see is on the strengthening band inside the headband, and then there's a tiny bit of metal that sticks out just between the ear cup and the ear cushion on each side. This thing contains more plastic than a Lego factory, and that concerns me a little bit where build quality comes into it. So let's move on to talk about the build quality. The GH50 wireless feels like your run-of-the-mill standard gaming headset. It's not bad, but nothing jumps out and stands out as being exceptional in regards to build quality. As I mentioned a minute ago, it's plastic almost everywhere, apart from in that headband and those two little bits of metal on each of the ear cups. There's a lot of rattle when giving the GH50 wireless a bit of a shake, more so than I've noticed on other headsets, and that's due in part to the amount of different pieces that fold and rotate and move and stuff like that. Each ear cup folds inwards to allow you to put it inside the included carry case. And then those ear cups adjust on both axes, but only very, very slightly. And on this review unit that I've got, the right hand ear cup rotates freely. There's no resistance to it at all. Whereas the left hand ear cup, there is quite a bit of resistance. It may be due to the wiring inside or the way it's just been built. I haven't disassembled it to check, but they feel very uneven in how they adjust and how they twist. One plus point on the build quality though is the buttons and then the volume dial. They all feel really good quality. The volume dial especially, more often than not, volume dials kind of have a little bit of side-to-side play when you adjust them. And this one feels solid and sturdy within its housing. The buttons do too. The buttons have got a nice tactile click and they feel good quality. The headband does flex quite a lot, but when you reach the outer limits, it doesn't feel very good and doesn't fill me with confidence. And I think if I stretched it too far, I could snap this headset in half. I'm not going to do it for the sake of a video, but it's one to watch, especially if you like taking it on and off aggressively. Just be careful with it. Overall, the build quality disappointed me, if I'm honest. There's nothing that jumps out as being very good. The amount of plastic and just the general feel of the adjustment and how the plastic just interacts with each other, plastic on plastic, doesn't feel nice. There's nothing that makes this headset feel like a premium product. Let's move on to talk about battery life and connectivity then. So first off, the connectivity and the compatibility. This thing works with PC, Mac, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation and Xbox. And all of those, apart from Xbox, will work wirelessly. If you use it on an Xbox, you're stuck in the wired only mode. As for my testing, I've been using it on my PC throughout, and the 2.4 GHz wireless mode has never skipped a beat. I've never had to wait for it to reconnect. It's never disconnected when it shouldn't have. It's always stayed connected. It's always woke up relatively quickly, and it always has just worked. I plugged it in the first time, and since then it's just been seamless. I've never had any issues with it working. MSI claim in their specs a 22-hour battery life on a single charge of the GH50 wireless's battery. So I put that to the test, but the only indicator that I have of the battery life is a very small icon within MSI Center software, which is a battery icon with 6 little segments that deplete. It doesn't tell you the exact percentage of the battery, which is something I'd like to see. Every headset, everything that's wireless and has a battery level, I want to see the exact percentage of the battery. But I tested it and I listened to Spotify constantly for exactly 3 hours, which is when I saw one of the battery segments, one of the 6 battery segments deplete. So going on that sort of test and maths as a logic, we were looking at 18 hours plus, but we have to bear in mind that this is a brand new headset and it's a review unit, and it's not had very many battery cycles. So once this thing has been depleted and charged up a couple of times, that figure could improve. But it's coming relatively close to the claims that MSI have put in their specs. And the battery life, it hasn't disappointed me. I've never thought, oh, that's run out fast, I need to stick it on charge. I've been testing it for about a week, and I've charged it once or twice. So moving on to talk about the sound quality then, a really important aspect of any headset. And the audio is put out from a pair of 50mm neodymium drivers, which are capable of 20 to 20,000 Hertz frequency response. Now, I don't have the equipment to test that and give you a graph, which is something I'm going to look on doing in the future. But going on my personal experience, the sound quality on these things is pretty good. Out of the box, the EQ is quite over accentuated, and the bass is too much. The bass can get quite rumbly, and then the trebles can get quite harsh. So after I'd been into the software and tweaked them down a little bit, I kind of got it to a more balanced state and more of a sound profile that I prefer. But it is good that you can boost those frequencies, including the mids, which MSI call voices for some reason. You can boost all of the frequencies up and down by 12 decibels, really letting you dial in a sound profile that will suit you. So there's enough range in the adjustment for you to find something that you like. Gaming using the GH50 wireless has been a pretty good experience, to be honest. I dived back into some Call of Duty to test out the directional audio. I haven't played Call of Duty in a long, long time. So I jumped onto Call of Duty and they performed pretty well. I was quite impressed. There was never any moment where I thought, well, I should have heard that person, which I remember the last time I played Call of Duty, I used to think, where's the footsteps, quite often. And this headset performed okay. I've also played quite a lot of Satisfactory I've got into with one of my mates recently, and the rumbling of the machines in the background and all different manner of noises in that game sound great through this headset. And during all that time gaming, the GH50 wireless has been quite comfortable, if I'm honest. I've never felt any pinching around my ears or any fatigue or anything like that. It's always been quite soft, quite comfortable. The only criticism I have is the ear cushions. I would have much prefer a fabric finish rather than the PVC leather that's on there, as I find that can get quite stifling at times, but some people prefer that, and it's a very popular finish among headset cushions, so there's nothing wrong with it. They're perfectly comfortable. I just prefer a fabric finish. So the detachable microphone on the MSI GH50 wireless headset sounds okay in my opinion. It deals with background noise and plosives and stuff like that quite well out of the box. The sound quality I think is okay for a headset of this price point. I've not had any complaints from any of my mates on Discord while I've been using it for testing. And I'd be happy using this headset as my daily driver for chatting to people and stuff like that. I wouldn't use it for any content creation, as is always the way with headsets like this. But for general day-to-day use and talking to your mates and meetings and stuff like that, it's going to be fine. And in the software for the MSI GH50 wireless Nahimic, there are two settings, one for static noise suppression and one for voice stabilization. They have both been on since I started recording this test. I'm going to turn them off now, hit the keyboard a little bit, and then I'll turn it back on, hit the keyboard some more, and you can hear the effects that those make to the sound captured by the microphone. So I've now got a keyboard in my hand, and I'm going to hold it just in front of me, just roughly where it would be on the desk, and I'll hit some of the keys. Both the sound suppression and the voice stabilization settings are still turned on, as they have been since the start of the test. I'll now turn both of those settings off and do that same thing again so you can hear the difference. So now both of those settings are off, and again I'm hitting the keyboard at roughly the same distance. And this is while I'm talking. This is Matt for Kit Guru, and this is my review of the microphone in the MSI GH50 wireless headset. The sound suppression can sometimes mess up the general sound of the microphone a little bit, and it does an okay job of removing stuff. I find the default settings, which it's easy to reset it back to default if you've tweaked stuff. The default settings out of the box tend to deal with most of the noise around my setup quite well-ish. I don't want to say exceptionally well, because I have seen and heard better solutions, but it does an okay job. And again, I'd still be happy using this headset day in, day out for chatting to people. So following on from that mic sound test, there was a bit of clicking introduced after I'd applied the sound suppression, which may be a software issue and something that MSI can fix in an update in the future. But overall, I think the general sound quality of the microphone is okay, and I still would be happy using this day in and day out. And as for the software, the GH50 wireless uses two pieces of software. First, there's MSI Center, which is used just for checking the battery level, and then you can adjust the settings relating to the low battery notification that you see, how long it appears for, and how opaque it is. And then for all the actual juicy tweaks to do the audio settings and stuff like that, you have to use Nahimic, which I was filled with dread a little bit when I first saw that it was Nahimic, as it very often comes up in various like troubleshooting threads when I've had issues with my computer in the past and I've looked for stuff. People very often have problems with Nahimic. But with that being said, I've had no issues whatsoever with it while testing this headset. It opens quickly, it's responsive, it hasn't crashed or it doesn't lag or anything like that. It's laid out quite simply, it's quite easy to use. And it's been great to use, to be honest. I was not looking forward to using it, but I haven't minded it at all. And it's kind of changed my mind on the subject a little bit. Specifically to do with the GH50 wireless though, there are 4 preset EQ profiles. They are communication, movie, music, and gaming. They're all laid out exactly the same, and they give you the ability to add or remove up to 12 decibels to bass, treble, and then voices, which is just mids, but MSI or Nahimic have chosen to go with calling it voices within their software. Maybe so people know that is where the human voice sits within that sort of mid-range, but it's mids. Each of those tabs for each of the different profiles has a handy little try button at the top where you can click it and it'll play some sample audio. Some of them are quite funny. You can play some sample audio so you can hear the tweaks that you're making in real time and really dial in the sound of the headset and get it suited to your preferences. And then moving down to the microphone tab, you can find a slider for the microphone level, the gain level, and then you've got the toggles for the static noise suppression and the voice stabilization that I went over in the mic test earlier in the video. Overall then, and I like the GH50 wireless. It's a typical gaming headset that doesn't stray too far from the tried and tested formula that makes up a generic gaming headset. It doesn't do anything special and it hasn't got any wacky or out there features. The build quality is the biggest area of letdown. There's more plastic on this thing than in a Lego factory. It's crazy. And it just doesn't feel very premium at all. It feels kind of cheap. It feels kind of tacky. But the most important thing, the sound, it does perform okay with the sound, and the mic is okay. It's passable. It's nothing out of this world, but it does work and it will get the job done. Overall, it's a bit boring, if for lack of a better term. It's a standard gaming headset. It looks like a gaming headset. It does its job as a gaming headset to a fairly well standard. It's just the build quality lets it down. And that's all for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a like down below if you did. Don't forget to subscribe to Kit Guru to keep up with the latest PC gaming news and reviews. If you go down to the video's description, you'll find links to our Discord server, our Patreon page, or our website if you want to check any of that out. And if you want to buy any merch, like the stuff you see us wearing in the videos, then you'll find links to that below this video. Anyway, guys, I've been Matt. This has been the GH50 Wireless, a new headset from MSI. I'll speak to you in the next one. Look after yourselves. See you later.